Well, let's start with that. Are we rolling? Tell me about that experience.
Well, first off, I go to his house and he's got like a lot of copies of Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you not read this book yet?
With the blue cover?
Yeah. Oh, because he loves blue.
Yeah.
Even his new office has blue ceiling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was speaking at his event and I was like, you want me to roast you? He's like, sure. Like, do you have a book? He's like, well, I have a manuscript. I was like, send it over. He's like, all right. And then I roasted him. And he was like, I'm going to have to change some stuff in the book. Because first off, he had an acronym that wasn't an acronym, so I made fun of that. I told him my favorite chapter was the one written by Seth Godin.
Yeah.
And then I said, how amazing is it that you talk about the low moment of your life? It was a real James Bond moment. I'm like, who talks about their low moment? Like their international sexy spy.
The one that he was like drove into the house or something. Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, so he had to change things.
I mean, that book is... I think it's going to be one of the most evergreen, like, it was a game-changing book. There's, like, books that come out. I mean, your book we'll get into as well. There's Buy Back Your Time, Atomic Habits. Those are, like, these newer books that are, like, I think will last time for a while. How did you ever meet Dan?
How many reviews Atomic Habits has?
What happened?
Atomic Habits has, like, 150,000 reviews or some crazy number of reviews.
The craziest. I mean, what a book. I mean,
I don't even know how... James texted me when the book was coming out. He's like, hey, I'm mailing you this book. I'd love your support. I didn't know who he was.
How do you know all these people?
We spoke at an event together.
Okay.
I met... Dan and I spoke at an event together. James and I spoke at an event together. So it was just through speaking. Yeah. But I didn't really know like how big that book was. Like, I'm a jackass. I should have been like, yeah, let me support this. Let me get on this train.
Is that kind of how you have built your network a lot over the years? Because, like, you know, we talk and you're always connected with a lot of these big names. You obviously speak on stage a lot. Do you meet a lot of these people when you're at these conferences and then build relationships with them?
Yeah, if it's like a good like I've spoken at events where I'll stay and attend the whole thing because it's a good event.
Yeah.
And then so I get to know some people.
Yeah.
And if I speak, then I typically get to meet someone because what I share, that like I'm better on stage than I am hanging out.
Yeah.
You know? So they're like, oh, this guy knows something. So yeah, it's helpful.
I don't know. I've seen you on stage and I've hung out with you. You're pretty fucking awesome to hang out with, man.
Thanks, man.
we've had some fun.
Like when I'm at an event, I'm pretty quiet until I get on stage. So so it's like people don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get green room time, you get stuff like that. And it's I look back on some of these people, don't really know how we built a relationship, but we just did. And you know, usually when I go to an event, I have like a rule. I just want to meet, like if I'm there for 3 days, I'm like, if I can meet 3 people and just get to know, like really dive in for a day with someone. Because if you meet too many people, you don't remember them, they don't remember you. And so a lot of times I'll speak at events and I'll think about, all right, what's this event organizer going through? How can I make it good for them? And sometimes I'll be like, hey, have you thought about this, this, and this around tax? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, is this your mansion? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, you should Augusta rule it. What's that? Hey, also you should, and like, so by the time I go on stage, they're already like, holy shit, Garrett just saved me a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So I just always thinking about like how you build a relationship that way.
Yeah, that's so good. So adding value immensely first, and then like it makes it so much easier to connect.
Yeah, like I'll make connections for them or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
you know,
so good. Well, I don't really do many introductions on this stuff, so thank you guys for both being on here, Landon and Garrett. If you guys don't know Garrett, people that are watching, get the hell out from under the rock. Garrett is like a legend in our industry. I mean, your name transcends the industry of financial services at this point as well. You know, you're a comedian, awesome dude, dad. I don't even have your accolades listed here. I'm just trying to think of things that you're, and I mean,
I like how, like last night we were at dinner and I said I was doing comedy and Myron's like, I thought you were joking.
Yeah. That's great. So yeah, I mean, speaking of that, so we're talking about people that you met. I mean, we had a beautiful dinner last night with Myron Golden. Really cool time.
Dude, that way that came about is crazy because you guys are up at my cabin. We're driving to have a good dinner. And you're like, do you know who Myron Golden is? I'm like, as a matter of fact, my buddy Scott just sent me a video. I haven't watched it yet. Then we hit play. And Myron's like, yeah, I learned this from Killing Sacred Cows and What Would the Rockefellers Do by Garrett Gunderson. Yeah. I was like, that's cool. So one of you guys hit up your
Dylan,
buddy.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, he knows him. And he's like, yeah. So then you guys set up the dinner last night. I think he gave me one of the best compliments I've ever received. I was just sitting there like,
it was pretty
trying not to be like
back,
I was like a little kid. I was like, wow, that's like okay.
Yeah.
So
that was pretty cool. He was like, I tell anyone that's getting into financial services or building wealth, just follow what Garrett Gunderson says. Like, Wow. Coming from somebody who like he preaches about this stuff, he's huge, big name. That's quite the compliment. Now you're going on a stage in about an hour.
Yeah.
Let's go, man. Let's go. Do you ever pinch yourself of like all these experiences that you've had? You know, been through a ton of really cool stuff in your life. Also been through a lot of different experiences, potentially negative as well. You ever like pinch yourself like how is this real? Like how have I built this life for me?
Like I more feel the pressure of trying to create a legacy.
Sure. What does that mean?
So, you know, I look at my family and there's no one that has a ton of success or like game-changing wealth. They have success in like maybe like, you know, I have an uncle and aunt that have kids they're close to, and he was an executive and they live a good lifestyle, you know, but most of my family is pretty financially just making it. And so when something happens, like my cousin has an autoimmune disease, I like to jump in and be like, let me pay for the care. Let me get you with the right people and help them out. And so I feel a lot of pressure. Like I want my kids to have massive opportunity, but not entitlement. How do I teach them without just giving them something? And I feel like I'm making progress, but it is pretty weird to show up at a financial event. Like, cause I didn't know, like 3 years ago, I just built my financial firm. You know, we got up to 8 figures, and you know, that was with financial transactions. This is coaching and digital courses. So we're doing pretty well, but I was just in my own little silo. And then I sell the company and I go speak at this financial event. And when I walked in the room, there was a dude on stage being like, oh shit, Garrett Gunderson just walked in. I was like, oh, that's cool. He knows me. And then they're asking him questions like, I'm going to defer to Garrett. He's speaking later today. I think you should ask him that question. I was like, and then the next person gets up. They started acknowledging like that. So when I get up, they gave me a standing ovation before I spoke. I was like a little baby. I got all emotional. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I've got a brand in the financial space because people have been watching what I'm doing, even though I'm not marketing to them. And so that was a really nice, pleasant surprise.
Yeah. No, reverting back to what you had mentioned about supporting your family and things, how do you manage that dichotomy of making sure that you can support your family while also not like trying to push too hard, where like understanding where enough is enough when it comes to building wealth, obtaining resources? Because like you're also somebody that really values your lifestyle as well and not working 90 hours a week.
Yeah, like I just hit this moment like a year ago where we bought this, you know, this other piece of land by our cabin. Has a little cabin on it. You know, it's got a fishing pond. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I got this like notion in my head because I bought that in 2020. I was like, oh, I should have 100 acres, like Winnie the Pooh shit. I should have 100 acres. And then like now that we even have this extra 3.5 acres and I've been renting it out to the guy I bought it from and he's going to leave, I'm like, oh, we now have to take care of that property. So who's going to do that? Like, am I going to have someone I hire to do that and now I have to manage them? And I just realized I hit a saturation point. There's no more real estate to own to make me happier or wealthier. It actually makes it worse. Because, you know, I'm an Italian citizen, and so people all the time are like, oh, do you want a place in Italy? I'm like, no, we rent places in Italy, and then we just leave them when we're gone. Like, oh, but what about all the, you know, appreciation, or what about, I'm like, yeah, you could buy a place for $1, and then you're responsible for fixing it up within a certain period of time. That's a huge project that takes me away from everything that matters to me just so I can say I have a property. Nobody even gives a shit whether I rented it or whether they just get to come in or whether I own it unless I'm flexing. And so I just hit that point where I was like, more isn't better.
Yeah.
And I have to think about like what gives me peace of mind and what allows me to be present and what allows me to be creative. And if I start taking on things that remove that, then actually that's a problem. And the good thing about it is I can do more in business because of delegation and building my team and AI. So I still like, I'm done most days at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
Unless I'm on the road going out to dinner with you guys or, you know, or every now to get a webinar. But when I was young, it wasn't that way. I just worked all the time.
Sure. So like, let's address the young people that mostly listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Do you think that you have to go through that cycle when you're young? Do you have to go through the pain of working all these hours without understanding what the expected outcome is going to be on the other side, potentially burning out to identify, like, maybe I didn't define the right version of success for me, or is there a better way to start? Like, what would you tell your 20 or so year old self when you were first starting out that you could have maybe managed a little bit better so that you
people told me, but I didn't listen.
Sure. Yep.
It's like I had to explore that on my own. Like I bought a PNC company. I started a mortgage company in addition to my financial. Like I just started building. I was doing software, and then it was like, my wife's like, "Cool, I'm just like a single mom. Like I just expect to go places without you. You're on the road. You always say yes to every speaking gig, and like had to go through that. Like I think if you're single, who gives a shit? I think if you're have kids, it's a whole different deal, because you don't get those memories back. And like, if I'm single and I was not working, what else was I doing?
Sure. I
did that in college. I would like just try to hook up with a bunch of girls and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just depends on your life. But you and I were talking about it. Like you have to kind of build to the point where you hit capacity so that you start learning how to build systems. You can't over systematize up front because it will kill your cash flow. So you hit those constraints and then you learn how to delegate. You learn how to build team members, and you have the cash flow to invest in that. So it's just part of the process.
Yeah. For those that don't know, would you mind giving us and we obviously know, but like your timeline through your career so far? Like, so obviously you started in the financial services and you kind of evolved.
It's been 27 years this month. So wow. June of 1998.
Yeah.
When I started.
Fun. Before you go into that, funny, Brian turns to me, he's like, dude, Garrett's smart. Like at dinner yesterday, he's like, Garrett's smart. I was like, yeah, he started in this industry like before the age we started at. And I don't know how young you are at this point, but
yeah, I'm 46.
Yep.
And started when I was 18. So
yeah, it's a lot
or
of
19.
Experience.
So I was 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, 19 years old, and so and I was also pretty aggressive as far as like I just wanted to. I want to be successful early.
Yep.
And so I pushed. I invested in a lot of real estate. I did oil and gas. I did. Here's the thing. I would be a lot wealthier if I would have been selective with my relationships. But I was a kid from a coal mining town. I didn't have these like badass relationships. I had to form them. And so I made some mistakes with people that, like, I remember this first guy that I kind of like, I don't know, I partnered with him, but started doing a lot with him. Like I knew the moment I started doing stuff with him, he was older than me. He talked a big game, but didn't really back up his talk. But when my assistant had her first baby, he kind of stepped in and almost like ran stuff for me. And he was just a train wreck long term. And so that was a hard relationship to break off. And I think how much it cost me being involved with him. And then I just had other people that maybe at the time were my equal, but I had a lot more ambition and I was more heavily investing in myself. And so as I grew, they didn't, and they held me back. And I'm just not good at confronting and saying, hey, this isn't working. I'm like appeasing. I'm trying to make it happen. I'm trying to bring him along, but you can't bring someone along that isn't willing to do the work.
Yep.
And so the thing in business is you could have this like amazing vision and someone might serve that vision at this phase, but they might be detrimental to that vision at the next phase. And the best people in the world create visions that are far beyond their current ability. And other people go, well, I can help with that vision with my current ability, but they never evolve. So they start slowing everything down.
Sure.
And it's really hard to just have those confrontational conversations. It's hard to break things off. It's hard to tell people no for me. And I just lost.
Well, especially at a young age, I imagine, too. Like, you're just getting your gears turning. Right?
I hired friends, man. I hired, like, college buddies.
Yeah.
And, like, they kind of, like, elevated their skill being around me. But once I fired them, I watched how quickly they went down because there was a certain culture. There was a certain environment. There was a certain level of standard. And it was like they were running the red line. They were doing the very best they possibly could. They were trying hard, but they had a lot of issues because it was beyond their capabilities. And I just had them around because they were convenient and it was fun initially. And so I think of how much that cost me. And then I think of like how many things I was so sloppy in. Like I should have created a lot more enterprise value because I know how to generate a substantial number of leads, and I just would refer so much stuff out, and then I get paid one time for the lead rather than I have attorneys have lifetime clients. Like I have an attorney that referred a client I gave him that's worth $500 million to another financial advisor.
Yep.
He's like, well, I thought you were doing comedy. I'm like, don't really matter what you think. I sent you the person. You send him back to me or you make a phone call. That guy doesn't get business from me and he has 2,500 clients from me. Like I just was sloppy with a lot of that stuff, you know?
Yep.
And if you're sloppy and not a steward, it costs you a lot of money.
Dude, well said. I think it goes back to when you're talking about partnerships, bringing people aboard. I think a lot of people are so like immediate to jump into partnerships. I mean, and I'll speak for myself with Landon. Thank God, like we figured out a way to make it work because like all of our businesses are partnerships, and we do everything with partnerships.
I mean, you did just clip your fingernails and throw them on the floor.
Oh, dude,
That was crazy.
We don't have to violate that on me.
pretty crazy.
He is wearing the
Everybody
belt that
knows
he's
now.
wearing today.
This is a good belt.
As Jeff says, all ships set sail besides partnerships, right?
Yep.
The divorce rate with business partnerships is probably higher than the actual like marriage divorce
And it's
rate.
painful. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I sold to a business partner because I didn't want to be in business with that person. And that was painful. I was like accommodating and I was minimizing. And I just realized I was immature. Like I actually had the difficult conversation once with him, kicked him out of the office. I'm like, you rule by scarcity. It's awful. It's not aligned with our values. And he went to work for an insurance company that we sent leads to. And then he found his way back in over a few years. And because I let him back in, I let go of the business because it's like, I can't work with this individual.
Yeah.
We just don't share the values. And he was super helpful early on, but then he was constraining. And then I had a friend that was like so much fun. I'm like, oh, we should do business. He's really smart, but we're in different phases of life. He was in having his first kid and not working. And I was in, I want to do something substantial. I just took a break after selling a business and that didn't work out. Those two things unwound within months of each other. And it was excruciating.
Yeah,
impacted my health. I hated it. It was like my wife had to hear these stories every day because I'm processing and trying to get the balls to do something about it because I'm sensitive. I don't want to like be cold and calloused about it, but at the same time, I was taking on the pain of it by not addressing it.
Mm-hmm. And I think not enough people understand the residual impact of all those conversations and that stuff. Is like you see all the like the financial impact of it could be devastating, but then like all the missed opportunity costs because your energy is just so low on it.
You're having conversations about separating or eliminating or frustration, not about possibility, not about vision, not about progress. It starts to take your energy so that you're not focused on things that are really productive. You're just trying, and it's like, yeah, it's partnerships are tough. I just think that a lot of it is regular communication, difficult. Like, here's an example. I bought a company in 2014, but it came with a partner. That partner was definitely like, it was his retirement plan. Sweet. Garrett's ambitious. He'll do the work.
Yep. I'm
going to go to culinary school. I'm going to go hang out in Hawaii. He called me one day. He's like, hey, man, why don't we take a $200,000 distribution? I'm like, it's midnight. You're in Hawaii, so it's only 8 p.m. It's midnight where I'm at.
Yep.
We have an event tomorrow that's 3 days. I'm going to speak all 3 days, and we're still finalizing everything because we're putting it together. And you're calling me to take a distribution? Go fuck yourself. Like, and I remember that's what it really started to fall apart.
Yep.
It had been months up until that point. But I remember the next time I went to talk to him, he's like, oh, I don't know if my marriage is going to make it. And that hijacked my emotions. Their marriage didn't make it, but I don't even know that he was really in a marital issue that day. He just knew that I wouldn't confront things. And so he always had these excuses of why we couldn't have a conversation.
Yep.
And it just prolonged him milking the company. And we ended up going to mediation. I ended up buying him out, and life was massively better after that. But I still made a similar mistake later and didn't learn the lesson in full. And it's just, those are expensive mistakes. Like,
what would you change on the front end going into those partnerships? That, like, if you could go back going into those partnerships, it sounds like now you probably wouldn't go into them. But like, what advice would you give to people listening that are either going into a partnership or newer in partnerships? Like, what are some things they can be doing up front to kind of mitigate some of this back end stuff that happens? Is it inevitable?
The other person I gave partnership because we were going through that mediation of this one, and I'm bringing on new people with capabilities, and so I felt like I owed a partnership to him because I was going to give partnership to these new guys, and I didn't really owe it to him. I just should have been like, hey, you have a compensation agreement, you get upside potential, and a lot of people don't really want ownership; they want upside potential.
Right, they want cash flow.
Yeah, when someone's like, hey, I want to have ownership in this, I'm like, well, there's different types of ownership. There's just stock options, and those might not have voting rights, and those you might have first right of refusal if they leave, and they might have a vesting schedule. But an actual partnership, I'm like, okay, so if we ever get sued, you're now on the lawsuit.
Yeah. If the business needs money,
if
you
there's
got
a
to come up
capital
with it.
call,
Right.
that's on you. Like, you have those conversations, and people go like, oh, so what they really want is upside potential more than ownership, and you can have those conversations. I also kind of look at, like, where can I have autonomy, like in my personal brand, And I can, like I'm building a media team right now, and they get 7 different ways they can get paid when we're successful as a percentage of what happens, but they don't have to have ownership in that. So they still have that upside potential and they get to participate in it, but it's my personal brand. I don't want anyone owning that, because what if it doesn't work out? What if they go through a marital issue or health issue? Or what if they just change for some reason, or they get another opportunity and they're still, they're focusing too much attention there. There's so many numbers of factors that are hard to predict. So yeah, I just think that having something where you don't have a partner, and then something if you do have a partner, so if it isn't going according to plan, you still have something that can propel you forward instead of being stuck.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of what we're doing right now. This is what this podcast is about. Landon and I have done literally everything in business together, and so we hit this point where I almost needed a space in my life where I had full autonomy, so that one, we both have our own creative outlets, and I think the best place to have that full autonomy is your own personal brand, because it's you, And then always I was like, hey, Len, we are inviting you to every single podcast because you're only a value add, but you can never do anything wrong here. You don't have to be here. There's nothing you could disappoint. Because I know I've definitely made him feel like I've just disappointed me at some point. But that's where what I want to make sure that we highlight, though, because we're talking about the scary stories of partnerships. I'd like to think of us as one of the success stories, and we're not anywhere close to where we need to be. But I truly believe that we'll make this work forever. The only time that this partnership will end one day, and we say hopefully it's when we die, or if the company ever goes out. So I don't want to scare people.
Or someone's buying someone out just because you have another vision, or I have another vision.
Yeah, as long as you're willing to buy me out for $1 billion, dude, we're out.
There you go.
I mean, that being said, I just want to make sure that we highlight partnerships aren't bad; they're just really fucking hard.
Well, yeah,
people don't have the tough conversations up front.
Yeah.
They don't, you have to set up the rules of engagement before you have to set up all the rules of engagement while you're friends, so they can be enforced when you're not friends.
Yeah, you told us this is how do we figure out before we go into business together how we're going to figure out how we break up? Right. That's this weird, ironic version of it.
And it's like, if you have this vision that's beyond your current capability and you work towards that, will you both be able to work towards that? Or is someone, in a different phase of life? Are they in a different work ethic? Are they, and what's nice is you can have different compensation even though you're partners.
Yep.
And that's helpful sometimes too.
That's like with Jeff. So one of the awesome introductions that we had from you was Jeff Soha, who talked to us about looking at your business from 2 different lenses. One as an investor and one as your role in the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if he's talked to you about that or if that's you guys have jammed on that, but that's a really eye-opening concept.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
For a partnership that we're developing together.
There you go.
Yeah. It's he and I and 2 other people. So we're definitely going to have those conversations. And, I was talking to someone at a dinner, and they're like, yeah, we hired this guy before we got in a partnership. And he said 50% of people that hire him don't go into partnership because he goes through the questions and they don't actually want the same things.
Yep.
So yeah, I've navigated some successfully and I've navigated some unsuccessfully. And, it's not all one or the other. It's just that I just tell my partners, let's have the difficult conversations immediately, even if the timing's not great, because there's never a good time for a tough conversation. You just got to do it. I'm like, even if I'm going on stage that day, we can talk because I can leave it behind when I go on stage.
Yep. And so to that point, you've helped me and introduced me to the world of tapping into your emotions, getting into your body and all that stuff. Yep. How important is it to use that as a superpower when you're having these conversations, but also there has to be some power to be able to almost, I don't want to say disassociate, but separate yourself from the human version of yourself and the entrepreneur version of hey, this is who we are in this exact conversation, so that our emotions don't get too drug up in this thing.
Right. Because I'm in a conversation right now with someone where we're reworking things, and he's getting really emotional sometimes. And he called me a bully a few times. Now, the cool thing is I don't relate to being a bully.
Yep.
So it has no reaction for me. As a matter of fact, every time he calls me that, I'm like, oh, you're a victim. That's what victims say. I was bullied. I'm like, you signed the contract, you did the deal, and you're going back on it. So we're just going to do something different. And I've stayed pretty benign through the actual communication. When I'm fired up, I process with my wife and I just talk it through. And then I just remind them of the facts and then what I would like to see going forward. And what I'm really good at is reinforcing what they're good at and why there's a fit there, but not in everything that we're doing.
Sure.
But, this is something that happened over 6 weeks versus 6 months. In the past, I would have let it linger. I would have just, tried to, but I could just see my head being wait, I was supposed to get 25% and I'm getting 15%. Yeah, that just doesn't work for me. And by the way, that's their choice not to pay me the higher amount. I'm worth more than 25%. So I was like, there's other people willing to pay me more than 25%. So when he gets in these really, whatever types of emotional things, I just kind of like let it pass. And then instead of engaging, just stick to like, well, here's how I felt, not here's where you're wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they can't argue my feelings.
Landon's really helped me out with that, as well as like when we get like emotions come up and there's going to be heated moments all the time. And one, making sure like we're all in agreement. We're going to be friends throughout this whole thing. It's all good. This is just a business thing. But then two, it's us against the problem, not us against us. It's not me versus you. We're not pointing fingers. It's like, what is the problem? And we're probably more in alignment than we think. How do we actually go solve that problem together?
It's a thing that even in society, not to zoom out of this conversation too much, but like we're so taught to believe through the media that we disagree on more things than we actually disagree on.
Yep.
True.
It's articulated sometimes differently through tonality and different, different aspects.
I was talking to somebody about it yesterday about like politics. Is like if you choose one side really hard, especially the liberal side, but sorry, if you choose one side really hard, you already lost the game, because the whole point of politics is for you to be in friction. It's like solving the problem is not the goal, because it doesn't make you money. Right, it doesn't make either side money. Like the whole point of it is to actually stay in that frictional point.
It shows
not
how
solve it.
malleable and manipulated the brain can be.
Yeah.
Someone that's just like, I agree with every issue on this side of everything, and I only vote this way. I'm like,
what a
cool.
scary place, yeah.
They have completely cornered you into a belief system that's false.
Yep.
Because there's no way that all humans are going to be like, I believe only this way or only this way.
Yep.
Right? It's like, it just means that we're not thinking anymore, and they tricked us down a road that we're like, okay, yeah. Well,
even to go back to the business side, it's even sometimes with our team, it's like there's some frustration that can rise up from people on the team, and you have to also realize, like, a lot of times their intentions are not to screw up the business. It's not to blow the business up. They care. They want to do good for you.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a lack of alignment in some things, and if you approach it with like, hey, why didn't you do this? And it's a confrontative like approach. Sometimes that's the way to go about it. Don't get me wrong, but there's also times where it's like, why did this problem occur? How can we solve this together? That approach sometimes is a lot better. We've had,
that's why Landon manages the people in our business.
Well, look, the beauty of business is it's like one of the best incubators to discover life.
Yep.
It's a good way to discover yourself. It's a good way to grow, because there's higher stakes than just being in some isolated thought process only with a spouse or only with your kids. It's like now you're dealing with the dynamics in an extended way, that people that you're not related to, people that you're trying to have a combined vision that you're working towards, but see it different ways. It's like, it's this beautiful incubator. And when people say it's not personal, it's business, that's stupid. Like, it's all personal. It's just personal.
Yep.
We're dealing with people. Like, to get anyone to think that corporations are just an entity, not people behind it, that's erroneous. It's actual people, right? Like the only reason it exists is the people behind it and their philosophies, their willingness and ability to work together. And so I look at it as kind of like this gift, even though it's not always an easy thing, but it's like, man, I've grown so much more in life by being an entrepreneur, because number one, I have to play by the rules of responsibility. Good intentions don't matter.
Yep.
I gotta have good intentions, but that doesn't put money in the bank. And so it's, like my wife talks about it. She goes, we just have to she's like, you like being around people that are willing to take responsibility. People that won't take responsibility, maybe they've been in a job their whole life where they just put out blame, or they just put in their time, and they don't have to be measured by their results. But as the business owner, if I do that, like, imagine if businesses ran like the US government. They're $37 trillion in debt. We would go to jail. And yet for them, they keep spending more.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no accountability. There's no responsibility. There's only excuses. Oh, well, if we don't do this, then that will. Yeah. As a business owner, I could say that all day long, but the reality is, if there's not money there, I'm being irresponsible. And we train to the level of irresponsibility we're willing to accept. And the government's willing to accept an enormous amount of irresponsibility in the name of we're helping poor people, and in the name of this is for the greater good. But the reality is, it creates entitlement, it enables, and it actually lowers and weakens the population, because sometimes we need a little tough love. If we raised kids the way the government operates, all of our kids would be criminals. That's the bottom line. And this is why a lot of people feel like the government is criminal, because there's things that they're saying that are different than what they're doing. There's a lot of things that are happening behind closed doors. And guess what? The government always says, oh, it's big business that's the problem. There's a lot more there's a lot more corruption in the government than corporations. Cronyism is probably the biggest problem, because then it's the two of them colluding at this point. But I think that, that's a big rant just to say, shit, man, like we just have to learn to do things together. And if it doesn't work, there's consequences.
So good. We train to the level of irresponsibility we're willing to accept. That's so good. That's so good. What a fucked up game business is, right? It's like you can work with like you mentioned, with the best intentions forever. You could work 24 hours a day for a year just for the potential. Lose. Yeah, just for the potential to win or not lose money, right? And you could lose your ass off.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
And that's why it's important, like, to do things that actually align with your skill set and that you have a high degree of interest in. There's a lot of people that do stuff that they hate doing, which drains their energy to the point where just because making money isn't motivating enough. It's like, it might be temporarily, but eventually it's just a terrible solo artist. You need like other elements to it. And so I don't like the people go, oh, that person did really good doing this, I'm going to do the same thing. It's like, well, maybe you're not as good at it.
Yeah. I said all the time, if you don't define your own version of success, you end up borrowing somebody else's. So you're living somebody else's life in their dream, wondering why you're in a nightmare, right? It's like, I'm like the main culprit of that. Like, constantly been chasing somebody else's vision because I wasn't willing to like go down the responsibility of figuring out my own, only to continue to find these empty voids every time. Until I figured out all I fucking need is a golf cart in my life, and then life is good, right? That being said, like, how would you go about like articulating this to especially the younger culture? Like, how do you start building wealth and building a business through entrepreneurship while retaining your soul? Like, without compromising, because there's so many people that like, there's so many paths to compromise and go against your core values, but there's so many amazing paths that you can still build a tremendous amount of wealth in integrous ways.
Yeah.
How would you go about that? What do you have to say about that?
Every young person, I mean, everyone should start in sales. Because even if you're an artist, the difference between the broke artist and the successful artist is sales.
Yep.
And so every young person starts in sales. It's nice because, especially if you have 1099, and so you have upside potential and you sink or swim, and especially if you're like starting out and you're not married yet, hell, go get good at sales, because whatever you're going to do, that's going to be a valuable skill. And then as you make money, don't go buy stuff, invest in yourself. You guys are part of Chamber. You guys invested before you really had the money. You're like, we're just going all in. You're putting money into like learning and developing skills that have served you guys really well. And I think that a lot of people think that the skill development process happens in school. School's relatively worthless now. Yep. I mean, it's just with AI, the investment in skills has become accessible to the masses. It isn't overly expensive anymore. It just requires attention. And look, if you're busy and you have a lot of money, pay directly for the individual. If you don't have the money, just use AI to learn the skill set and then go apply it. Like, I was, in college, and I was taking these like software classes in finance outside of school. Like, I was going and paying more for that than I was paying for my tuition. And then I went to like 12 or 13. And I was like, all right, I just have to go do this in front of clients now. And I just started doing it in front of clients, which put the stakes higher. I learned at a much more rapid rate, and I made more than any of my professors by the end of my college years because I invested outside of this classroom. And I think that too many people think that, like, if they get a degree, that's the investment. A degree will make you a barista. Like, who gives a shit?
It's crazy.
Like, you've got to do more than that. You've got to think, like, how do I really improve myself? And I don't care what career you're going into, if you develop sales and then financial intelligence, because everyone's dealing with money, but most people aren't dealing well with it. And so you've got to increase financial intelligence. Otherwise, it's a price you'll pay for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So sales, financial intelligence, and then what forms of communication outside of sales, like, because I'm talking one-on-one sales, then you look at like platforms like what gets you one-to-many sales, what gets you writing, what gets you speaking, what gets you, like video, like what can you do there? Because we're in a world where we have all the platforms to just put that information out, just people who aren't good at putting it out. And like, even me, I'm going, hey, I'm great at books. Like, I've written some like big books, great books. I'm great on stage. I could be way better on video. So I've been hiring that skill set. I've been hiring firms to be like, what's it going to take for me to be a pro and at the top of my game on video? And I'm 46, still investing at a heavy rate because that's what's required. Yep. And I just think that people think they see someone at the top and they don't see the equation that it took to get there. And they just want to be where that person is without doing the work that it requires, which includes that person finding out what they're really interested in and willing to do, and something they're willing to get obsessed about. Like, when I decided to do comedy, nobody had to force me to rehearse every day. I was just obsessed with it. You know, it's like him listening to the Grateful Dead. He's just going to do it. You don't have to worry about it. It's going to happen. You know, like, what is it that you're interested in? And then combine that with where you have skills or can develop skills. Because the first time I spoke, I wasn't good. The first time, you know, I wrote, I wasn't good. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at the beginning. It just means you have to be really committed to gaining that skill set and willing to go gain that skill set. And then I fell in love with writing. Then I fell in love with speaking, you know, and now I'm going, what video formats do I enjoy? Shit like this is fun, like being in person. So I'll do more of this.
Yeah. You started kind of one-to-one sales in the financial services space, right? And there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this that are in that space right now. They want to probably produce some content. They want to create a brand for themselves. Yeah. Where was it for you, that inflection point where you were like, hey, I'm going one-to-one. It's time to go one-to-many. And what was that transition like for you?
So let me tell you how clear I am about this. I had a guy has an agency, and he's like, hey, read your book, love it. What would it take to bring you in on really big cases? Like, if we got something worth $200 million, I'm like, there's no amount of money that will bring me in on those cases. I have people that I can send your way, though, and they could give me a cut of what they do. I'm just not going to meet one-on-one. Like, I just don't want to have a conversation one-on-one about that kind of stuff. It's just not who I am. So what happened is I was early in my career and maybe like 25, 26 years old. And I was like, just doing okay. I was doing fine. But I was doing a lot of joint work. So I'm working a lot of cases, but I'm getting 40%, 50%. And I was like, it was just my lack of marketing.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, here's the new philosophy. What would it take for me to fill 5 people's calendars 100%? It was that thought. And now I actually just, like, by 2006, I didn't meet one-on-one. I had coaches, I had teams. I just was a rainmaker. So I'm on stage, I'm doing a 5-day-a-week radio show. I'm writing now and that kind of stuff. I just thought, like, I'm going to be the one-to-many guy, because it's like, for me, one-on-one was like a lot of the same conversations in finance. Now I have like a little bit of one-on-one that I would do, but it wouldn't be on finance. It would be like legacy conversations, business conversations. You know, like when you guys come out and I do like a one-day. People fly in, we hang out one night, the next day we roll up our sleeves, because it's different every time. Like, the financial piece is the easy piece, and I can bring other people in to handle that so that we can get into the deeper stuff. Like, that's what I would do one-on-one. But like, when someone's like, oh, I got this really wealthy client, come help me with this transaction, I'm like, cool, I got like 100 people I can send you that are really good. Yeah. And so it was just a commitment. It's like, I'm not going to make an impact of liberating 1 million people to become financially independent meeting one-on-one.
How in the world did you not, like, just start your own firm to just lead other advisors or lead other, like, how did you not land in that spot?
So I did initially.
Yeah.
So, and this was early in my career. First, I was doing it for free. I had this study group. So we started with 3 other people. So there's 4 of us. We're meeting on Fridays, and then people are hearing about it. They're like, we want in. So we start having so many people that want in that we can't host at our office. And so I said, all right, once a quarter, I'm going to rent out this Marriott auditorium. It was like a, auditorium seating, had like 150 seats. So it was up by the University of Utah. I'd rent it out. People would come in, and then I was like, all right. One day I just put envelopes on their chairs. I'm like, it's $170 a month, and I'll teach on a conference call twice a month, and you can come in once a quarter. And it grew, and that's how I got tons of joint work. It's where I was debating accountants in front of the room. I was teaching the best things that I knew. They're teaching the best things that they know back to me to give back. And it was pretty sweet. And then my partners died, and I just didn't have capacity to keep that going. It kind of fell off. I mean, I had advisors paying to shadow me. They'd pay to come just watch me meet with clients. And dude, I'm in my early 20s.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, this is John. He's a 45-year-old dude that's in finance, and he just wanted to, and he's like, well, Garrett's like the GOAT, so I'm here watching what he's doing. Those clients are 100% signing up with whatever I offer.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, John might speak up a few times and have some insights to what we're talking about here, but you're cool. He sits in. Like, yeah. So it didn't matter that I was a young kid or anything, because they're like, oh, look at this. I'm getting paid while I'm meeting with clients to increase my conversion rate through all that. And then, I'm just starting to help advisors out again by licensing my content and building out entire content platforms and stuff. We're going to have a conversation later today with my team on that with you guys. But I like that. I like helping out the industry, because the industry's, the industry to me is bullshit.
It's shit.
I'm just going to be really candid. Like, this notion of fiduciary is douchey. Like, when people say, I have a fiduciary, I'm like, oh, you have a person charging 1% that's putting you in the market. How is that in your best interest? That 100% of the time, they're putting you in the market. That's the only move. I've never seen a fiduciary that's like, you know what, we're going to do this real estate portfolio. You know what, we're going to, well, maybe they might do a REIT as long as they can get it. Their whole thing is, can I charge a percentage and still get another percent? Like, I've seen fiduciaries taking a percent and people are in loaded mutual funds. I'm like, you are getting screwed here. What is it? Edward Jones. Edward Jones are the rapists of finance. They literally, they go into rural communities where people don't know a lot. They have 10 times more presence in rural communities than cities. And they use American funds, which are the most expensive fund family in the world, to get mediocre returns. Like, here's the deal. The top 20% mutual funds get 9.5% average. The bottom 20% get 7.5%. So just do an index fund if you're going to be in the market at that point. And yet they're just, they're like, I have a fiduciary. And I just sit there and go like, awesome. And then I have these guys go, oh, well, you're a proponent of insurance. And insurance is such high commission, because you guys know you can get a 140% contract on the first year baseline premium. Like, okay.
Well, Garrett, Dave Ramsey told me to stay away from all that stuff. Yeah.
Dave Ramsey, someone commented on my YouTube video this week. They said, Dave Ramsey denies the existence of BOLI and COLI. So he's saying there's no such thing as bank-owned life insurance or corporate-owned life insurance. I'm like,
they disclose their balance sheet.
Well, he sells term insurance, right? He has, and by the way, 1.1% of term insurance ever pays out. So you're making a bet that's going to lose more than Vegas. Vegas has higher odds than term insurance, and yet look at the buildings they built. They don't build those on winners, right? And so if you keep term insurance to life expectancy, you'll pay more in premium than the death benefit. As soon as you have a risk of dying, your premiums exponentially increase. And yet, if you're successful, an attorney is going to show up one day and say, hey, you need to buy insurance while you're old, which is going to have a cost rather than an asset allocation decision. Any 30-year period of time on bonds, money markets, CDs, any fixed income has underperformed the dividends of a life insurance company that's a mutual insurance company. Any 30-year period of time over the last 150 years for the companies that are 150 years or older. So that means the death benefit came along for the ride on your fixed income portfolio. And yet these people are saying, oh, it's high commission and I wouldn't do it. I'm like, well, there's no capital depreciation that's locked in. The death benefit's there, which unlocks other assets and makes a smaller asset feel like a bigger asset because it can increase cash flow. All this is in what the Rockefellers do. And yet these other guys are saying, oh, well, you make so much. Oh, guess what? Your fiduciary sells their book of business for 12 to 15 times EBITDA. That's insane. There's $30 trillion in the stock market, which means that everyone is funding BlackRock and Vanguard, which is pretty much the same company, so that we lose control and freedom as individuals and ultimately destroy financial sovereignty and ultimately fund companies that we fucking despise. Companies that you would never give a dime to because they're harming people. You put money in a diversified portfolio. And by the way, 8%, it's like 8 stocks that fueled most of the return anyway. And so you're in companies that with AI and technology are going to be dead in the future, and they're going to just replace them with new companies and show you an average return that's not the actual return, because they're not going to run that out for 0% for the rest of the life of how much your money was. They just put this other company in and say that's the new average, but that's not the actual return because they don't show you the real loss and the long-term effects and the volatility. Like, I can go on and on.
There's only 50 companies that are in the S&P that were in the S&P back in the 1950s or whatever, right? Like, if you look back to the 1950s, companies. There's only 50 companies
50
left in the
companies
S&P that
made
are
it.
here today.
Right.
Yep.
That means that most of them died. And the other thing is, why would a company, like we see companies that are not going public, they're going private from public.
So that brings up a good point. I want to pull us out of the weeds for a second because we're going too granular right now. But there's this Instagram post that you made that Bobby post this thing on the. I'm gonna play it, but then post it like show the Instagram post. Yeah.
We don't need the stock market anymore. The stock market was created in a time where people raised capital through public companies. That's all raised through private capital now. When people go public, it's an exit strategy, not a way to grow a company. And so you have all these people that know nothing about the stock market handing all their hard-earned money over to it, and then their entire life and their mindset gets decimated when something that they had no control over goes down.
So I'm only speaking to entrepreneurs specifically here because I'm an entrepreneur. And I don't have a single dollar in the stock market besides like one of my IRAs, right? And I think I told you guys to put it in Bitcoin or something like that. I don't really believe in the stock market because I don't really care about the appreciation because my business is my best appreciating asset by far.
Right.
It's gonna, especially when we're in
Would
startup
Apple
mode.
be like, you know what? We're one of the biggest companies in the world. Let's put our money in an index fund.
Yeah.
No, they have a skill set. They wouldn't say, we're going to put money into lesser companies that we have no control over. And yet that's what we tell the average entrepreneur.
Yep.
Hey, diversify into shit you know nothing about. Why? Well, because you have to have a retirement plan. You do? Look, in 2008, I met with this couple. They were pretty successful, and they were stressed. 1/70th of their net worth was in their 401k. And it was 2008, so it's just tanking.
Yep.
He's like, dude, I just can't sleep. I'm so frustrated. I'm like, the amount of money you lost is about 1/300th of what you're worth. And you're losing sleep. Why are you in a 401k anyway? Well, I mean, we provide it with our company, and that's just what you do. I'm like, it's not what you have to do. I'm like, you're good at art. You own a Warhol that you sold early because of cash flow. Like, you should have just cashed out your 401k, taking a 10% hit because that 10% penalty was less of a penalty than what you lost in appreciation on a piece of art. And I said, you're good at business. Why are you investing in other people's businesses? You've done 11 billion in sales since the inception of your company, and you think that you need to be in a 401k. So they cashed out the 401k. They started a coffee company that just got evaluated at $77 million. And now they have a portfolio of companies, 5. 3 are completely related and integrated. And the other one was the one they had forever that they're looking to exit. And so now they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars more by eliminating risk that was not necessary and just investing in what they knew, which is what every major big company would do. But somehow entrepreneurs are guilted into thinking they have to have a retirement plan.
Yeah.
My retirement plan is build massive fucking businesses that create cash flow, and I don't need a retirement plan. I am the retirement plan.
Yep.
So what about like the common man, so to speak, like the 93% of the country who's going to want to plug into those businesses, and they are brainwashed to think that they need these benefits and that's something they should have. Like, what do you say to that dynamic?
This is super harsh. If you're fat as fuck, go ahead and invest in the stock market because you've shown that you're not going to do the work.
So good.
Do it.
Yep.
If you're
Click
fit,
that.
if you're fucking fit, then you've shown that you have the discipline to become an investor. And you can dedicate a little bit of time every week to discover your investor DNA, which is going to give you control over cash flow, understand what you're invested in, and that's the bottom line. If you're going to believe this nonsense that you don't have time, you're full of shit. Mm-hmm. Get rid of fucking Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds calloused.
No, 100%.
But it's
No,
the reality.
No, you're good.
100%.
Yeah, it's
100%.
You mention it all the time. Like the risk is truly in the investor, not the investment. Right? Everyone's always trying to address like, is this a risky investment or not? And some of these investments, like some of them suck. Some of them are scams, right? But let's just go like by like the normal standard of investment. That's a legal, legit thing, right? I feel like a lot of people don't actually understand like what is their true risk tolerance, or what is like if this thing drops 30%, will I be losing sleep? Will I lose opportunity costs and other things? Like, help us understand the framework of decision making, because nobody's talking about this. Everyone just wants to see the chart go up, especially entrepreneurs, but they're not looking at their business as assets.
Yeah.
Help us understand like that mindset shift, because I needed to hear this when I was first starting.
Like, first off, Malcolm Gladwell wrote this article in the New Yorker. He called it predatory investing. Don't love the title, but he talked about how Ted Turner kept liquid enough that when there was distressed times, he pounced and bought assets at deep discounts. Think about the majority of the population. They're riding a stock market that's going up. They have no control over it going up. They just watch it go up. Their investment advisor tells them that's what they should do, that they're doing for the long haul, dollar cost average, all that nonsense. And they lock their money away till 59.5. And then when the market starts to go down, it means there's all sorts of great deals. It means there's good real estate deals a lot of times. It means that there's assets that are now available to be acquired because people are over leveraged, or, like maybe it's baby boomer time that they're now selling off businesses. And there's just so much opportunity during those crises. But most people are now going, well, I can't realize the loss if I sell. I just got to wait it out. And other people that are liquid get to make money on the buy. They get to buy something that can be cash flow positive from day one, which is impossible to do in a market that is overinflated and that is on the rise for far too long. And everyone else just sits there and rides it out, and a few people make massive gains, and it just happens over and over. And we can look at the best investors doing this again and again. And you look at billionaires' portfolios during times where everything's overinflated, they're at 37.5% cash equivalents. 37.5% of their portfolio, because they're waiting for the opportunity that they could take advantage of. And then everybody else gets taken advantage of because they're 100% invested in something they have no control over, and their mind's going to be impacted by it. And there's no training on cash flow. It's all accumulation. And now when they get to retirement, they're supposed to learn how to create cash flow and never train. That's like doing an Ironman and being like, I don't need to train. I'm just going to rest.
Yeah.
And now it's Ironman. I'm fully rested. I haven't done shit for 30 years, and now I'm going to do an Ironman. No, it's stupid.
Investing's gotten so gamified the last decade, especially, I'd say. I mean, the last 20 years has increasingly become more and more gamified. And I think everyone's the big takeaways that we're realizing, especially this last year and a half to 2 years, as our businesses continue to really grow and working with a lot of successful entrepreneurs and high income households, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you have to identify with yourself what game you're playing versus what game the person on the screen's playing. Because if you said, hey, should I go invest in this company, or should I make this investment in this deal because this person told me to, and it's a 38% ROI over X amount of years or whatever it is, it's like, well, cool, but what's that person's timeline versus what your timeline is? Is this a quick trade you're just trying to make a quick buck? Or is this something you're investing in for the next 10, 15, 20 years that you can actually commit to when winter comes? Because winter will come at some point, and if you can't stick to your plan or stick to whatever it is you're doing when downturn happens, it's a waste of time anyways.
Yeah.
Well, your business is your riskiest asset as well, right? Especially in the beginning. So it's perfect example is a client calls me, he's like, hey, is this real estate deal a good deal? Underwrote the deal. Is this is actually a really good deal. We're only 10% out of pocket on a seller finance deal with a 4% interest rate. You're not getting that in this market. Cash on cash is great. Depreciation's really good. But you don't have the liquidity to actually do this because you're going to pretty much drain your entire reserves, and that's not going to wipe out your entire tax bill. So now you're going to have to come out and fork money to the IRS, as well as you need the money to run your business. So what's a great investment objectively is not really a great investment for you.
And the fact that they have to ask shows that they're not ready.
Yeah. It's so, that's just so good, man. What do you think about I'm really trying to speak to, I'm always trying to think through the lens of what did my 22-year-old self need to hear on this podcast? Because all I cared about was the shiny objects, appreciation, all this stuff. I did wish I got into Bitcoin a little bit earlier. That is one.
Yeah, me too.
Where are people, where should they be focusing on deploying their money when they're growing their business? Because I'm a big believer in let's make saving money in cash cool again. All right. And there's ways we'll talk about cash alternatives, ways to get yields on your cash. But where should we, when we're starting out, when you're first starting out, just put money in your bank account so you can actually survive, right? But let's say now you're getting to the 40, 50,000 plus a month. Your cash flow is really solid. You could take care of your family and stuff like that. Where should we be starting to be focusing on allocating?
First off, take a salary, because a lot of businesses, when they're growing, they defer that. And what they do is they create a false sense of success for the business at their own expense. And if you don't start carving that out early, the business has an insatiable appetite and can always have an excuse for why the money needs to be allocated, right? And so, you want to invest in good people, you want to invest in processes and automation, but the reality is if you're not paying yourself, you're going to continue to find ways not to pay yourself long term. So that's the first piece. Second is, how do we turn business wealth into personal wealth? Well, we don't prematurely diversify and starve out the business before it has enough infrastructure. But as it has enough infrastructure, then it's about, I like to use and take a certain percentage of that money and just put it into cash value life insurance, just because it means I've captured that money on the personal side. And for my wife, she wanted a certain amount of money in there to feel stable and secure, which then allows me to even accelerate what I'm doing in business. In the past, I would invest so quickly every dollar that I was earning, but I was investing in oil and gas, I was investing in real estate, and that actually starved out the business. I could have built out an even better team. I could have built out even, like, I was pretty amazing on like what we were creating product-wise and software-wise, but team-wise, it ended up meaning more on my shoulders because I was invested in so many other things that could have just kept growing the business. And so I don't really believe in a complicated portfolio. I used to have a complicated portfolio in my 20s, and then I went from at 29, worth $8 million, and by the end of that year, worth zero because I was overextended, over-leveraged, all this kind of stuff. And then my business in 2008 had its first down year after 10 years of increase because I had too many outside factors. And I thought, well, I'm going to make so much money by investing. But the reality is every investment required my time. And it was all things that I wasn't really enjoying. In real estate, I'm talking to bankers, I'm talking to attorneys, I'm talking to property managers, I'm talking to maintenance people. None of that is an inspiring call that I'm making. And it's on my calendar. So I was like, but I do like writing. And I looked at books as being my real estate and something to create consistent cash flow. And I think that one of the investments is intellectual property for a business, because when you create intellectual property, you can have work done when you're not around. You can educate when you're not there. And so and there's also, you could feed AI to pump out even more if you have enough intellectual property for it to understand who you are. So I think that investing in, the people, investing in AI, investing in your intellectual property, all of that's critically important. And if you start investing in things you know nothing about, a bunch of real estate deals that maybe aren't inspiring or not any fun, it becomes problematic. So pay yourself, then just get really good at saving tax. I mean, you guys are great at that. Like, there's such a big bump if people just can save tax that they could fund their liquidity just through the tax savings without having to starve out the business.
Yep.
And then continue to build the infrastructure in the business.
It's like, what if we don't have to give a 30 to 40% check on all of our profit back to the government? How much quicker can we compound wealth, right?
But then they won't give money to USAID.
Yeah.
And people are starving because they're not getting their NGOs. I'm just
so good. You put me on to this concept that really sparked my brain about it, because I believe that passive income is pretty much a myth at this point. It's fucking stupid, right? That being said, I think one of the true forms of passive income that can be created is through intellectual property, but it's always because you are super active on the front end. Your book didn't
the
write
more
itself,
active you are on the front end, the more passive something can become.
Yep. So tell us about passive income. Everyone thinks that I could just go buy real estate and my life is passive.
I mean, just imagine this. Like, if you just are going to hand your money over to get passive income, why would someone give you a really high rate of return?
Yep.
Unless, like, if someone's giving you a really high rate of return, maybe it's just that they aren't really sustainable, right? But if like in a competitive market, if you're just handing money, you're not going to get this huge passive return. But if you can find deals because there's inefficiency, then that's a totally different world of what's possible. I think that there's a passive income index. There's things that are more passive than others. But again, the more work we do on the front end, like I just rewrote Killing Sacred Cows. I just rewrote what the Rockefellers do. I built out systems and that make it more effective. And yes, that produces even when I'm not around. I was in New York and 8 leads came in from what the Rockefellers do, but that was work that I did up front. And there's still like maintenance and management in order to maintain that. And I think if we think it's going to be mailbox money, then it starts to dissipate over time.
Yeah. And mailbox money is like kind of boring. Like we're value creators. Like the whole point of living is to be a value creator. So it's like, why do I want to just lay on a beach for the rest of my life if I can deposit that into so many people's lives?
Yeah, I had a licensing deal that was 6 figures a month. It was relatively passive, but I had to say, is this good for my brand?
Yep.
I was like, no. So I had to cut that off, because being uninvolved might mean it gets out of whack.
Yep.
It means it's not who you are. It's not aligned with what you would do or how you would do it. And so something for nothing is a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. And it will lead to more loss than gain.
That's so good. You were saying something before I cut you off.
I don't think so.
Was I? Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to ask about AI and financial services at some point. I wasn't going into that yet, but like, where do you see? We're in the world of financial advice, and we're building out a virtual family office for all our clients. Like, where do you see AI replacing in certain areas? Like, what's the future of AI in the financial advisory industry and in that whole space?
We now, in one of our companies, we have AI that does our bookkeeping. So if it goes as well as we think, all of our bookkeeping will be done by AI. And I don't think anyone loves bookkeeping. So I think that's really good and it's really timely. The other thing is, think about like when WebMD came out, everybody showed up to the doctor with questions.
Sure.
They had researched before they got there. Doctors couldn't give you like, well, there's a study. You're like, yeah, that's a sample size of 8. That's not a very good study, doc. Like, so I think people are going to show up more informed. They're going to know what to ask a whole lot better because of AI. And, you know, like, why do I save tax? I've never filed tax. Like I've always had CPAs and tax, you know, enrolled agents do all my filing, but I know the questions to ask. But I know it because I've been in the industry forever. Other people now have it at their fingertips so that when they show up, they can be so much more effective and they know what's going on. And we just know that like every advisor has a ton of bias. Obviously, my bias against the stock market is apparent, right? Well, AI will be less biased. I mean, you'll still have some bias based upon how the thing was created, but you could just get data to look and see what decisions you make. So I think it'll remove busy work so that we can get to a place where we can get deep with clients in a more intimate setting where it's like, what do you really want? And dive into that versus just a lot of salesmanship and asking people what they want when the transaction's already determined before the client shows up. Like I could predict, like I could be on a show where it's like, all right, this is their financial situation. They're going to interview 3 financial advisors. I say, here's what the recommendations are going to be. Before they've even, like, all I have to do is look at their papers. I don't even know what their wishes or desires are. I just know exactly the boilerplate bullshit that's out there.
Right.
Like, like, advisors are going to have to get a lot better because they're going to have to get good at understanding what people really want and helping them because AI is going to prepare them when they show up to ask better questions.
Yeah. That's so good, man. What's in it for you? Like, so you could retire if you want. You can chill, right? But I see your eyes light up when we're talking to Myron about you learning a new skill. Like, I observing you learn in your zone of learning of things that you like to learn is actually really, really cool because like you're locked in, you're smiling. There's a different energy towards it. What is in it for you? Like, what lights you up? What are you trying to build?
I think the best thing I ever did in front of my kids was do comedy because they watched me struggle, face insecurities, work my ass off, refine, and then film this special that was like tons of people there, goes really well. All these people that are like, you know, amazing. I have an amazing director. I have like 8 Emmy winners on the crew. So they like watched that whole experience and I developed and learned about myself through that experience and visualized it. So like now I'm doing that with video. I'm like figuring that out and I'm starting to work down that path. And so my kids get to see like, oh, like he doesn't have it all figured out. He bumps his knee along the way. He learns how to be resourceful. So I'm like giving them an example because when I finished comedy, I kind of had this 3-month period where I was like, man, I just did a tour, 16 cities. I'm gonna take a break. I wasn't fulfilled during that break. I was bored. I didn't really want to watch shit on TV, but I was too tired to do other stuff. And I just felt bad about myself as I sat there versus like meeting people, learning from them, being inspired by them, helping them. Like human connection is what really matters. And when I'm writing, I feel good. When someone's reading my writing, I feel even better. Like it's just, there's an equation to unlocking people through the work that I do that unlocks me. So I improve. But now I've just built this bridge that, you know, I'm here hanging out with you guys because of that type of a situation. If I don't write a book, we don't know each other. And if I don't write a book, I don't know half the content I wrote about in the book because it makes me research, figure out. And then unfortunately, when I write a book, it makes me go through the very shit that I teach and be like, here's what this actually means when there's stakes. I'm like, oh, damn.
Do you think you had to step out for a little bit with and use comedy as a tool to have this perspective now?
It definitely helped because when I did the comedy thing, I thought about it for a while. I waited, then I said, okay, I'm going to do it. Then I committed to it. And then when I was on the top at the peak, my manager's like, oh, now you need to do a comedy tour, which wasn't my intent. I'm like, okay, I guess that's what I need to do next. And it took the fun out of comedy because now I'm filling venues and now I'm like, I had fun when I was at the venue, but I was traveling alone for some of it. And I was like, oh, wait, this isn't my game anymore. It's someone else's game. So then I got to take time and be like, what game do I want to play in the world of money, finance? What is it that I enjoy doing? What could I see myself doing long term? What can I dedicate 10 to 20 years into? What do I feel fulfilled with? What is fun to me? And, you know, continue to refine that. But like, yeah, I don't want to be bored. Like it's no fun.
How do you get those answers? So all those answers that you of those questions that you say, what lights me up, what fulfills me, what do I want to do? Those are pretty daunting things that I think always evolve. That we don't always have the answers to grasp immediately. What is your outlet to actually finding that? So like for me, the way that I find out what I want to do in my life is probably just fucking a bunch of shit up and realizing what I don't want.
That
other
helps.
people use journaling. Other people just kind of try and connect with their source.
Yeah.
What's that look like in your world?
There's definitely, I wrote a blog post called The Road to Don't. And I was like, oh, I went through these things to learn what I didn't want. But to me, it's definitely God. Like if I'm in tune there, like even I was with my spiritual mentors in Austin and they're like, what do you want? And I was like telling them like, pretend we're not your spiritual mentors and you're not trying to impress us.
Yeah.
Just say what it is you want. I was like, I'm gonna be the most impactful financial teacher for entrepreneurs that's ever walked the earth. They're like, okay, what does that look like? I'm like, well, I better get really fucking good at social media because I haven't gotten there. And I better continue to be prolific with my writing. And I better continue to develop my skill set. I better continue to impact people that are influential and really empower them. Like it's like, yeah, that stuff's fun. I mean, I enjoy making money. It's fun. I enjoy like writing. And sometimes you don't direct, like there's such a delay of making money with writing, but then it comes later. So it's not that it needs to be a direct payoff immediately, but it needs to be something that I feel like is challenging me, helping me grow, helping me like live a life that, I mean, I just feel like, damn, my family put in a lot to get us to this point, you know? Like moving to America, like, from Ireland and Norway on one side and from Italy on the other side, and like what they went through, for me to just like sit around and do nothing, that just seems like I'm a dick.
Yeah.
Be a dick move.
Well, you still are a dick.
Well,
What's the future of writing? Like, so would you mind sharing like your writing process, how it's evolved with AI, and where do you see the writing industry going? Because we're watching a movie with Bradley Cooper last night, and he's sitting in front of a computer pulling his hair out for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then something comes to him and he's right. But like now I feel like the landscape's changed a little bit. What's the future of that space? Obviously you're established.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any problems getting books published, but like, what's the process look like for you now? How
I
is it
mean,
evolved?
noisy garbage. It's going to be a lot of noisy garbage that's out there because it'll sound like AI wrote it.
Right.
But those people that use AI as their editor, that use AI as their, like where they get stuck to get the other 20% done, and people that use AI to help them like, move past blocks, they're just going to be prolific. And I think that there'll be a certain time where, it's just going to be, we're watching the free line move. Like knowledge is just going to be completely free. So what's going to matter is community. What's going to matter is like trust. What's going to matter is vulnerability. What's going to matter is intimacy. What's going to matter is human connection. What's going to matter is art. And like we're just going to remove so much busyness, and there's going to be so many people devoid of purpose that they're going to be really despondent and frustrated. So what that means is some people could blame that on AI. I blame it on the leaders that don't show people the way. So I feel like it's a new frontier where AI can help me to be so much more effective. It's like having employees that aren't temperamental. It's like having employees that are exponentially growing that I don't really have to pay much for. And it means that everybody on my team can make so much more money because we could be so much more valuable if we embrace these tools. And yeah, I think that like my writing I wrote 4 blogs in a week because of AI. I still did a lot of the writing, but it did a lot of the refining. If I just say, hey, AI, write this for me, it sounds like I've put so much into that bot because of all of the books that I've written and all the blogs that I've done, and we're still transcribing podcasts and uploading it, that it could sound like me, but it doesn't know my stories. Like I wrote this one yesterday here from the office, and I talked about, I got in this trouble with this real estate deal in Nashville in 2008. I had a personal guarantee. It was a balloon payment coming out of commercial property. I had so many properties on my credit that the bank wouldn't refinance me. So they basically called the note. And so I flew to Nashville to meet with it was a regional bank. And I sat down with the trustees and I was like, hey, what do you guys want? They're like, we want the money. I'm like, well, I could write the check, but it's going to bounce because I have a lot of real estate. I'm like, so let's look at a few other options. And I made suggestions, and they were just like, sorry, we're not going to work with you. So I hired an attorney in Nashville. Ironically, he finds out who I am, reads Killing Sacred Cows, becomes a huge fan, and sits down with the trustees telling them, have you read this book? It's amazing. I'm like, this is one of the most embarrassing moments in my life. I'm sitting in front of these bank trustees because I can't refinance and I can't pay this off and I have a personal guarantee, and you're saying how amazing Killing Sacred Cows is. And we did the strategy where I filed for bankruptcy but didn't clear it. And filing bought me time. And then I found someone that could roll their IRA. And then we bought the property out at a discount, which would have been better than what they got on an auction. The trustees were happy. I was happy, but like AI doesn't know about that story.
Right.
So I had to write that story to personalize and make the content something that would be for the individual reading it, which now gives me more time to think about all these stories and go like, what are my biggest lessons? And like to be able to share that. By the way, I brought a client to the bank with me. I had a client in Nashville. I'm like, hey, do you want to come see this sticky situation I'm in? I know you're in real estate. He's like, yeah. So you got to witness the whole thing. He's like, bro,
like education. Yeah.
He's just like, I can't believe what I just learned, because they were dicks to me in the meeting, and I remained calm. And then I said, all right, like I'm gonna have to do phase 2. I didn't want to do it, but I'm gonna file in just that LLC that holds that property. That'll buy me time. And then I'm just gonna reach out to people that I know hate the stock market and they're getting killed right now. And we'll roll it and we'll move it into this piece of real estate through a self-directed. And I found someone, we did that. And I was in Franklin, Tennessee. If that dude didn't have a stroke, he had a stroke and we had to sell the property early, he would have tripled his money. He only anyway. So like, that's where AI just doesn't know my story. So I have like a memoir that I've been messing around with that has tons of stories that I can now read, start writing the story, then I can have it organize it. So I don't have to be like, I could just be faster and a little bit sloppier and let it refine it. Because it used to take me 6 hours to write a blog. Now it takes me 2 hours. And now with AI, it takes me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's because like at the end of the day, the end user is not going to be able to like, they'll be able to understand the energy.
Bro, look, man, a bat in the average person's hand, they can't hit Mariano Rivera.
Yep.
But there are a few batters that could. It's just how good are you with the bat? AI is not going to be good for someone that doesn't know how to swing.
Yeah, that's really good. Great analogy. Well, as we wrap this thing up, because I know we got to get you to Myron Golden's event, which is pretty damn awesome, man. Yeah. I just kind of like think about full circle how cool this, the last 7 or 8 months of building this relationship has been. Like one thing that I want the listeners to know is like the evolution of how kind of this got here, right? Where like Len and I, we've just spent years and years of investing so much time, energy, and money into becoming skillful enough that we took a risk to buy our relationship with you. I talk about it all the time. I buy my relationships.
It's the fastest way to get in a relationship.
By far, right? So we're like, yo, Garrett, how much do you charge for your time? We paid you and we spent a weekend with you, and we knew that we were confident enough that like we'd be able to bring enough value to become friends with you and like find a way for us to financially align, get mentorship, all that type of stuff, where like it was a completely...
The whole reason we're even here though is because we all joined something else and all invested in our growth and our business.
Exactly.
From another channel and another group separately, which is
we were all running the same playbook, buying our relationships there, right? Because like when I met you at that event, I was fanboying, dude. The first thing I did was like texted Landon and I was like, yo, Garrett Gunderson's here. Holy shit. Like, Garrett, let's take a picture. Let's meet. And you're just like a normal ass dude. Like, yo, let's hop on a Zoom call. Let's connect. So like, what's really cool is just observing you now as like a peer and a friend of yours that I'd like at least like to consider myself at this point. I'm claiming that I've earned myself into your friend circle.
You're definitely a friend. You've been in my house.
Yeah, fair enough. So that being said, is like, we've created this relationship after you've climbed these summits of like being a successful author, business owner. Really cool to observe that you're now going to like, we're with you in this moment where you're going to about to climb another summit. This is like the ultimate summit, which is building your personal brand. I think that's going to transcend pretty much everything else that you built.
Yeah.
And not just doing it from like as somebody that's cheering in your corner, but also being able to add value to that whole thing and be a part of it.
It's just like we developed that deep dive discovery and report of findings off of like some things you guys were showing me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dude, we used to do cash recoveries. Why aren't we doing that? And then you and Bobby came to my house and met with my Bobby. And then it's like, we're like, I don't know, it's a crazy conversion rate on that thing.
Yep. What a blessing, man. Like life is so amazing when you're just like focusing on staying in service to other people. Like we didn't go there thinking that there was an end outcome. We believed that there would be a really cool positive outcome. Just like dinner last night.
You being like, hey man, like, Myron? I'm like, someone just sent me his video.
Yep.
And we just played it in the drive and then he's talking about my books and you're like, bro, I know, I have a homie that knows him. I was like,
yep. And awesome. Like I knew that's a very important distinct point, right? That exact moment, my brain was not on what's in it for me. It was like, how can I connect Garrett and Myron in this situation? Because I know they're going to go make something special and serve the world. And I know long-term, like that's a selfish move as well, because I know long-term that'll come out because we were the connectors of that.
Yeah.
Right. Because AI is not going to replace the connectors.
Yeah. Relationship capital. Like you get that when you come to my cabin, like, hey, I can't build relationship capital. It can't be like, hey, let me make these major connections for you, because I have to know if it's a good fit, if it can be trusted. Like AI doesn't know how to filter through that. So like, I did a coaching call for one of my inner circle yesterday, and I made 2 connections for her right off of the call, right? Like, and so, yeah.
It's so good, man. Anything you guys want to leave our listeners with as we wrap up?
Good on my end.
Yeah.
This is for you, brother. We're here for you.
Cool, man. That was fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
How can our listeners connect with you if they're in financial services? Can they work with you to any extent?
Man, they should DM me on Instagram, Garrett B Gunderson, and I'll hook them up with What Would the Rockefellers Do? The licensee version, and they can just see a little bit about that process. And we have some really cool resources and tools. So
yeah, that book's changed.
Or maybe we can get you the QR code to put in the show notes or something.
Cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your friendship, your mentorship, your willingness to come hang out with 2 28-year-olds in Tampa and stay at our frat house.
Exactly. I was like, yeah.
Toenail clippings on the floor.
I see the difference between like my wife and what she does for our house. Like, you see what a woman's touch does. With like,
bro, I woke up this morning and like our dishes were done. I'm like, who the fuck came here and did the dishes? Like, yeah, I did the dishes. Like, what the fuck?
My wife trained me. She doesn't like dirty dishes in the morning.
Dude, you're the best, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.